Good morning, McGraw. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for checking in. So the Cardinals were in the playoffs, and then you blink your eyes, and then they were out of the playoffs.
Correct. Yeah, a great September. Not as much of an October. A great August, not a great September. I guess I should have said. Yeah, I mean the Cardinals had an incredible run to get back in contention. They had, it wasn't that long ago they were game up in the wild card race, and then the bottom just dropped out on them. They played a series of teams that were really good, and a series of teams from their division, and the Cardinals and the Cubs and the Brewers took it to them. And, the Cardinals, I think, just look like a team that ran out of gas. We can sit here and talk about what they should have done differently, what guys should have gotten more opportunities over others. But really, they were a team that was kind of given an extra boost by its youth. And when you get late in the major league season, that youth starts to hit the wall a little bit. And I think that's what happened here.
The Brewers finished 9-1 in their last 10 games. The Rockies were 9-1. The Dodgers were 7-3. The Cardinals finished 4-6. So I mean, clearly they just ran out of gas.
Well, they had some of their key players were rookies, and for those guys to go through that last leg of a major league season, there's really no way to prepare for it unless you've done it before. And I think that's what you saw here. A guy like Jack Flaherty, who's been so good all year, who's going to receive some votes for Rookie of the Year, goes out yesterday and gets pounded. And they have to, get him out early. It's hard, and there's no way to know how to get through it. Now the Cardinals the fan base is not going to be content with that reasoning, and they shouldn't be. Look, this organization prides itself on annual contention, on annual postseason appearances, and hopefully more. And they've missed 3 years in a row. So now, to me, the big question is, what does the front office decide to do? Are they going to let this youth continue to be the future and continue to go along at their own pace? I mean, there's certainly some exciting young players in this organization. Or are they going to try to supplement it with some star power now and try to contend with the Brewers, try to contend with the Cubs? Because right now, the division the Cardinals used to own, it looks a little topsy-turvy, and it doesn't really seem like it's going to be flipped back in the Cardinals' favor anytime soon unless the Cardinals get proactive about it.
Yeah, all right. So first, let's talk about Wainwright. Are we going to see Adam Wainwright in a Cardinal uniform next year?
Well, it sounds like both sides are open to it to some degree. This would not be a big contract that Adam Wainwright would have, similar to the one that just ended. This would be an incentive-laden type of deal. I think Adam right now would sign it today if he could. I don't know if the Cardinals are ready to go there yet, but they're certainly going to have those conversations. I think the Cardinals like what they saw from Adam, but I mean, as well as I do, there are a lot of questions there, and this team has a lot of arms. This would be more of kind of a maybe one more send-off type of deal than it would be a big money deal. I mean, Adam has been pretty candid about the fact that he didn't pitch a lot on this last big mega extension that he got. So I don't know that he's looking to break the bank, but I think he would like to end his career here. That said, he's also open to the idea of going elsewhere. It used to just be Cardinals or bust for him, and now I think if he wants to pitch next year, even if it's out of the bullpen, and the Cardinals say, hey, we're gonna let this be the end, then I think he will. I think he would go elsewhere to pitch a year.
Marcell Ozuna, what do we do with him?
Got to get him healthy, man. It was concerning somewhat to me to hear him saying that he doesn't plan on having surgery. I think the answer should be that he plans on doing whatever it takes to get his shoulder right for next season. He didn't have surgery last offseason. It didn't tend to go too well. They've got to get him on. If he doesn't have surgery if there's not a surgery to repair what he's dealing with, it's kind of similar to a tendonitis issue. Then they have to do something to get his shoulder strengthened and rehabbed, because that what we saw this season isn't going to cut it. I mean, he can't throw and he can hardly swing. It got a little bit better after they did the treatment shot to it, but that's not a long-term solution. They got to figure out some way to strengthen that bad boy up, because he's entering a contract year where the Cardinals are either going to look to re-sign him or he's going to go make a bunch of money elsewhere, he hopes.
Yeah. Dexter Fowler.
Yeah, good question.
That's why I asked
Cardinals say, John Mozeliak says that he has a future here. Dexter says he sees a future where he plays every day. To me, that's a hard sell. You're talking about a guy who was supposed to be a leadoff hitting center fielder. He had a good year his first year, and then the bottom dropped out this year. He's had multiple foot injuries for a speed player. I think that's a bad sign. And when your feet start getting banged up as a veteran 30-plus player who relies on your speed, that doesn't usually end well. Cardinals owe him a ton of money still. He's got a full no-trade clause. There's nothing really the Cardinals can say right now other than they want Dexter to come back and be a part of this. I would be a little surprised if that turns out to be the case, just because I think the Cardinals have to look at the intangibles here and say, I don't know that you can bet on that guy being your starting right fielder. The problem is there really wasn't anybody who jumped up and grabbed that spot while Dexter's been out. Jose Martinez can hit. He ended the season in a bad way offensively, but he was one of the team's most reliable hitters. But his defense is going to cost you in right field just like it is at first base. Tyler O'Neill was kind of supposed to be the guy who jumped up and took the spot, but he strikes out so much. I don't know that you can count on him being reliable. He's also injury-prone to some degree, so there really is a big question mark in right field to me. Personally, I think Bryce Harper would look great there, but you got to figure out something to do with Dexter's contract, and I don't think the Cardinals are going to pay him to go away, or they would have done it by now.
All right, now you brought up the $64,000 question, and that is Bryce Harper. Cardinals realistically have a chance to get Bryce Harper?
Well, I mean, if they want to spend the money, sure. Now, we've seen them be more aggressive to some degree with offers. I mean, the Giancarlo Stanton, I think, thing counts. Some fans say it doesn't count because they didn't get him.
Right.
But the money was on the table. I mean, he just didn't want to come here, which to me that's the worst thing. When you match money and
right.
And they would have been on the hook for his contract. They were willing to take it. He just didn't want to come. So if the Cardinals have the money, I think they would have a better case for Bryce than they would for Machado. Machado's never played anywhere but the coast. I think he wants to be on the coast. I think Harper would be a fan of the culture here in terms of baseball being king all year round.
Right.
I think that would be a selling point with him. He also hits left-handed, which would be nice for this lineup. It's way, way, way right-handed heavy. I just think he would be a star here. But I don't know that the Cardinals have the fortitude to get into that bidding war and win it. They certainly have the money, but their plans usually direct them in a more cautious route, and oftentimes it has worked out. But we're also talking about, as we said earlier, a division where there's really no end in sight in terms of this Cubs reign, and now the Brewers are better than ever, and the Cardinals are looking to get back to where they belong.
Yeah. Where are Miles Michaelis? Did he sign a one-year deal?
A 2-year deal.
2-year deal. Thank goodness. Best 2-year deal the
back.
Cardinals ever signed.
Remember, he wanted a 2-year deal because he figured they were willing to go more, but he said, I want 2 years because I want to prove to people what I can do and have a faster shot at free agency. And everyone kind of said, well, that's pretty bold. You have more years on the table, but you want a shorter deal to get a quicker shot at free agency. Well, it looks pretty smart now.
Right.
He's one of the National League's best starting pitchers. He was dominant again in the Cardinals' last game that mattered. It's a shame that they couldn't have gotten him another start down the stretch.
What? How old is he?
Miles?
Yeah.
He is not. I have to double check on that. He's not as old as his mustache indicates, but he's not quite one of the baby faces that they've got running around in that rotation either. I think he's about 30-ish.
Okay.
But I'll have to double check on that.
Yeah, he is 30. We our crack staff here double checked.
Yeah, I think 30 sounds about right.
He is.
But a mustache
30.
of a much wiser, much more mature man.
Yes. Well, him and Bryce Harper could talk about hair care products while they were.
Bryce Harper's 25. I mean, that's why this guy's going to make so much money, man. I mean, he's so good and he's so young. Now the big fear is giving veteran aging players big contracts, big money, right? They'll give him big money, they don't want to give him big years.
Right.
Well, Harper and Machado's 26. They're going to be some of those few guys that got to the major leagues so early. They're going to be able to demand both because they have the mileage left. The only thing about Harper is he's played so long already and played so hard that you probably has the body of a 30-year-old
right.
more than a 25-year-old because he's been in the league so long.
Well, great, he's 25, but he has 5 years, right? I wouldn't go any more than 5 years. You give him a 10-year deal, then all of a sudden you're paying him to be a 35-year-old broken-down ball player.
Well, a 5-year deal probably won't get you in that conversation. I don't even know that 8 would. I think it'll be 10 at least.
Right.
And that's going to be the bargain rate. When you make those kind of deals, you're basically factoring in losing at least 1 year for decline or injury, maybe 2.
Right.
So that's kind of the unspoken rule in this is you bake in years where you don't expect the guy to play, and you say if I get this value from him in these peak years, then we're okay eating this on the back end. The example would be, even to some degree with Dexter Fowler. I don't think the Cardinals expected him to be the leadoff hitting center fielder in the 5th year of his deal.
Right.
They would like to get something out of him. The problem is they experienced like the 5th year of that deal in year 2, and that's concerning.
Right. Well, I want to know where all those Cardinal fans demanding the Cardinals sign Dexter Fowler. Where are those people today?
Well, a little quiet.
Yeah,
I think they're the ones that are demanding they sign Bryce Harper now.
That's right. Yeah.
But here's my theory though: is the Cardinals have done really well on low risk free agents who helped them out in a big way. Bud Norris, Miles Michaelis. There was competition there maybe to some degree, but those were guys like the Cardinals signed and everybody went, what?
Right.
Okay, look how those turned out. The Cardinals have struggled where they've made their misses are kind of on that middle to upper tier free agency. Dexter Fowler, Mike Leake, I think is a good example of that. Some of the closers, you got some like Greg Holland.
No,
these were not marquee free agents, but they were probably that B group.
Right.
They were like B-list free agents. So to me, maybe you stop going after the B-list guys and you go low risk guys and big fish, and cut out everything in between, because it seems like the in-between is where the Cardinals are getting burned.
Yeah, but even the big fish free agents, when do they ever pan out? They really don't. The David Prices of the world and the Mike Hamptons of the world. I'm going back a couple years though with Mike Hampton. But, right, the big price free agents, they don't really bring championships either, though.
Well, the Matt Holliday's an example, right? Matt Holliday was a trade, but then the Cardinals signed him, and he had a pretty good run here. And that's kind of like the ideal example. The Cardinals kind of need that kind of move, I think.
Yeah.
Marcell Ozuna was supposed to be it, and unfortunately, the Cardinals said they knew about this shoulder issue. Apparently, they didn't realize how bad it was, or else they thought it would get better sooner, because it very much limited his first year and his chance to make that kind of impact statement as the cleanup hitter. So I think they still need that kind of move. It's fair to point out that a lot of the long-term deals with these free agents, they don't pan out. But I don't know really right now what the Cardinals' other option is. You can trade. You can certainly make a trade for some sort of offense or some sort of third baseman, right fielder, whatever you decide your biggest need is. But you're going to have to give up some of this talent that helped you last year. Everybody went nuts, because Christian Yelich is probably going to win the National League MVP. And, the Cardinals, if they were to make that trade, Yelich was going to cost more than Ozuna. He has a much better contract. It's a 5-year deal. He's a lot cheaper. He would be way more expensive now because he had this breakout year. But even as the guy that the Brewers traded for, they probably gave up their version of a Jack Flaherty, Harrison Bader. That's where are the Cardinals without Jack Flaherty and Harrison Bader?
It's a great.
We're talking about the future ace and the starting center fielder starting next season. So that I don't know that adding Christian Yelich to the group without Jack Flaherty and Harrison Bader gets the Cardinals where they want to go either. Maybe it does, but that's a high price to pay.
Ben Frederickson, an early season free agent pickup by STLtoday.com and paying dividends all these years later. Ben, STLtoday.com and with the sports guys. Have a good week, Ben. Thanks.
See you, McGraw.